Escaping the Fold by Vincent Merkel. Fayuk and the Extreme Army. 12 years before my arrow sped to the neck of the Malak warrior, an Australian archaeologist by the name of Sonny was brutally murdered for the possession and rights to an ancient artifact that was found in a cave in the Australian outback. It was an artifact that had the resonant energy of a long-forgotten evil. The moment that the crazed Arab, Fayuk, pulled the bloody tooth-like artifact out of Sonny's chest and laid the dying man on the ground, he had uttered a triumphant declaration: "God is great." I know this because since my escape from Teleonisi, I have visited the cave and found clear evidence of the events that unfolded on Sonny's last day of life on this earth. Unknown to Fayuk, the good-natured Aussie had set up recording equipment to document the unearthing of any objects found in the cave. The fact that it took me well over 30 years of adventure and research to find the site and Sonny's dried corpse is a story for another time. Suffice it to say that Fayuk killed Sonny, and after his dastardly deed reveled in the idea that the artifact, the bloody enameled tooth-like bone, was a gift from a great god that gave him the right to take a human life. He built an army of like-minded people who would be willing to serve an evil notion for their own twisted sense of glory and importance. I do not doubt that the moment that Fayuk grasped the tooth, Linnea began to send messages to the swarthy scholar. Like clockwork, Fayuk calmly hid Sonny's body in a nearby cave, all the while maintaining a conversation as if he was taking orders from some invisible general.
"Yes, Effendi, we will prove your greatness. Oh, yes, great one, we will bring you what you will. Yes, master of all, I am your servant, and none shall stop us."
After a few moments of gibbering out loud, Fayuk turned to the cave wall that was inscribed with the prehistoric drawing of Babula. His voice rose one last time as he destroyed the image of the beast.
"There shall be no images of you."
Fayuk left the archaeological site unaware of the recording equipment that Sonny had set up. However, the man was not clueless of the map of the stars and ocean that marked the location of the fold that was etched in the cave walls. He committed the coordinates to his memory and destroyed the chart. Sonny's murderer escaped from Australia completely unhindered and began to build an army for the glory of his dark and usurious lord. Sonny had hired Fayuk because he was a scholar in ancient and forgotten languages. In the years after Sonny's murder, Fayuk learned the language of the beast. The power of unleashing unholy words on ignorant ears was all he needed to recruit an army of eager minions. Although they had never met, Babula had anointed Fayuk his high priest on earth and taught him the finer points of divisiveness and political expediency. Fayuk delighted in everything that his god delighted in: the pain and suffering of the innocent and the destruction of love through fear and terror was his communion with his ancient and unwholesome god. Controlling people through deceit and murder was easy for Fayuk in a chaotic world that had begun to resent the notion of a loving God who allowed evil to exist in the world. The masses and believers of a good deity forgot that it was their duty to be a reflection of goodness and truth, and that God could exist within us because we are created in His image. That is what the beast and Fayuk, his high priest, wanted people to forget. Fayuk could operate easily and undetected in his desert homeland in the Middle East, while the rest of the world fought over their borders and political affiliations. All Fayuk had to do was convince his desperate and ignorant countrymen that his God was the greatest. Fayuk built his army by raiding nearby villages, stealing their wealth and women, killing the men who would resist Linnea, and by converting their children into loyal servants of the beast through rigorous brainwashing techniques. He kept his army by rewarding them with a percentage of the spoils of war, whether gold or slaves. Fayuk always got his share and allowed his militia to gratify the basest of their desires, but it was always in the name of another god. Fayuk masked Linnea's identity under the guise of an established religion and operated secretly from the basement of a respected mosque on the edge of the ancient land of Babylon. Fayuk sat on a mosaic floor by the light of an oil lamp with 10 of his most trusted disciples in the subterranean vault of a mosque. They had been converted to Linnea's foul service, along with many others, to serve themselves, always pretending that they were pursuing a nobler purpose, the destruction of the culture of evil. Fayuk spoke in hushed tones.
God has revealed to me with the most beautiful of words that we are to agitate our neighbors to the west of us, to incite them to attack us so that we may attack them in righteousness and assume their wealth and women and grow our tribe for the glory of God, the most powerful.
Fayuk was scheming on how to prey on his neighboring villages, as he had heard that there was much wealth and gold and oil within those precincts. He connived to have his followers attack in the uniforms of another group of militiamen so that there would be no trace to tie him to the subterfuge. As he began to speak again, a door flung wide open to let the light in from above, and in walked an angry, robed and bearded man. The robed man, Ghassan, the imam of the mosque, pointed sternly at Fayuk and bellowed, "What do you in here? In this sacred place, do you dare conspire to start a war with our brethren and neighbors under my nose when God has given you such high station in His service here?" Fayuk coyly answered,
"You have been misinformed, Holy One. We but sit and contemplate our sacred scriptures in the peace of the vault."
"You are a fool and a traitor," cried out the imam. "You will surely find an eternity and Gehenna's fire for your betrayal to this place of worship and our followers. We have striven for peace, but for centuries people like you have brought us back to the Dark Ages with your greed and malicious intents." As the imam stood, Fayuk scanned the eyes of his followers and nodded his head, then turned to question the bearded man.
"But, teacher, why would you accuse me in such a way and imply that I would disgrace you or our religion?"
Imam Ghassan turned to leave the room and stated, "I have heard you with my own ears. I stood at the door and heard your instructions to the traitors standing in this room with you, and I will fetch the authorities and have you turned over to the High Court for treason." Fayuk nodded to his generals and cried out to the Imam, "Wait, teacher, do you not know that we do this for the glory of God? I have been chosen by the Great One. Look at the power he has bestowed upon me." Fayuk held out the black tooth of the beast. It began to shimmer with a blue electrical surge and caught the eye of the holy man. The disciples of Fayuk surrounded the Imam and forcibly brought him to the ancient fragment of enameled bone wielded by the hand of Linnea's servant. "God wills peace, Fayuk. I know not what this trickery is." Ghassan tried to fight the men holding him, but he was outnumbered, too old and too weak to resist. Fayuk raised his voice, and the bony object, "God is great, and you are an old fool!" The deranged and power-maddened Fayuk drove the dagger deep into his teacher's chest and watched the blood spill out from the cone-like artifact. Many of those who had opposed Linnea have died by Fayuk's hand and the blood-drenched relic in the same way as the old holy man Ghassan. "This is a most unfortunate turn of events," Fayuk mused. "I was hoping for a little more time before I started my journey, but now it won't be long before the authorities start looking for Imam Ghassan." Fayuk cleaned the blood from the ancient tooth on the old Imam's robe and began to bark orders to his faithful followers. "Our plans shall not be thwarted by such a minor setback, but they will have to change. Continue with the attacks on the village, and when you are there, leave the old man's corpse where it can be found. Let the tribes to the west of us take the blame for his death. Then commence with our battle plans unhindered. I must begin a journey. When I return from my pilgrimage, I will bring back an awesome power bestowed upon me by the greatest of gods. He has shown me that the stars will align soon, and I must use this time to travel." Fayuk directed his 5 generals to carry out the attacks on the village. With 5 other combat veterans, he set out on his journey in search of the owner of the ancient bone talisman that craved the blood of righteous men. He was guided by what some might call nightmares, but to him they were enlightened dreams. Those dreams had led Fayuk to gather a great army of men willing to do his bidding in the name of a god that they did not know. It did not matter to them that the blood of thousands was on their hands. The only reason Fayuk could amass his wealth, power, and influence in the 12 years since the murder of Sonny was because no one questioned him while the people of the world fought over the names of their gods. Many of his followers actually believed that their fight was a holy struggle against evil, but since they did not know the difference between what is truly sacred and that which is not, they fought blindly and unwittingly for Linnea. Fayuk left the mosque feeling soundly secure that there would be many spoils from the raid that was about to happen, thanks to his army. Under the guise of a scholar and philanthropist, Fayuk and his 5 most loyal generals went in search of a naval vessel that could be easily commandeered for his master plan. He bristled with glee at the thought of meeting his unknown god in person as he began his journey north across the Mediterranean to Mount Parnassus, the childhood homeland of Homer's fabled Odysseus.